Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome to another episode of Uncover California. I'm Lori Mills, your host. Well, you know what? Today we're going to get right to it because it's very important. Just like on that Tom Cruise movie, we're going to show you the money. You know, Kamala Harris is a liar. She went ahead and she stole Trump's platform on no tax on tips, yet she was the tie-breaking vote on putting tax on tips. Well, today I'm super honored to have our first guest, and he is the president of the Government Accountability Institute, former fellow at the Hoover Institute, and chief editor at large for Breitbart News. Peter Schweizer, welcome to Uncover California.
Hey, Lori, good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so honored to have you here. You know, there's a lot of people talking about Kamala Harris like she's the new Messiah. And being a Californian, you know, we now know that her old district, San Francisco, Oakland, you need a poop map. And you hear a lot about her sexual exploitations. To me, that is nonsense. I really don't care about it. But what I do care about is what got her to where she is today. You've done a lot of research on Kamala Harris and the dark money and what she did to get her to where she is today. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure, Lori. I mean, Kamala Harris really arrived on the political scene in 2003 when she ran for San Francisco district attorney. She was running against the incumbent, a guy named Terrence Hallinan. And Terrence Hallinan was a progressive and he was a Democrat. But he really kind of wanted to hold powerful people into account. He didn't matter to him who those people were. He had launched a couple of investigations and was in the middle of prosecuting several of Willie Brown's friends. Willie Brown, of course, who had been the head of the California Assembly, was now the mayor of San Francisco. Terrence Hallinan was investigating his friends. Hallinan was also investigating the problem of priest sex abuse that was rocking the country at the time. He had gotten documents from the San Francisco diocese. He had gotten documents from a very powerful prep school there called St. Ignatius. And he was getting ready to A, prosecute people, and B, take those internal documents, scrub the names of victims, and publicize them. So needless to say, Terrence Hallinan was ruffling a lot of feathers in very powerful positions. So what basically happened is Kamala Harris ran against Terrence Hallinan, and she had the full backing of the mayor, Willie Brown, with whom she had previously had a romantic relationship, and also some very powerful people in San Francisco who were connected to that Catholic school who wanted the scandal to go away. They poured gobs of money into her campaign. Willie Brown got the local unions energized, and she literally came out of nowhere. She was not known in San Francisco, and she beat Terrence Hallinan. What happened? She got into power. She dropped the charges against all of Willie Brown's friends. Some of these charges involved public safety. One of his friends was selling subpar concrete for the construction of things like parking garages and bridges that could end in disaster. The other thing that she did was she deep-sixed any investigation or exposure of the priestly abuse case in the Bay Area. So the bottom line is that the genesis of her political career, it was all about cover-up. It was all about insiders putting her into power. And for all the talking that she does about, you know, being concerned about justice and protecting innocent victims, that certainly was not the case when she ran for office and she achieved that position. But the same sort of problems occurred when she became the California Attorney General as well.
You know what? And it's so scary because the thing is they're promoting her as somebody that she's not. Her policy, everything that she's doing, and being a Californian and somebody who had run for office in the past, I saw firsthand that I was being supported by grassroots supporters, the people, where piles of money from corporations and lobbyists are what supports these campaigns. In your opinion, Peter, how dangerous is it for this country if Kamala Harris were to become president?
Well, if you look in the space of her position as prosecutor, you see that she covers up for political allies and she goes after her political enemies. I mean, look at when she became California Attorney General in 2010. One of the things that was happening around the country is there were investigations taking place of health nutrition supplement companies for making faulty, exaggerated claims about what their products would do. The Department of Justice was looking at it, the Federal Trade Commission in Washington, D.C., and her office in San Diego said, we need to investigate these companies. They're located in California. We've done it as it regards other industries. We need to go after these 6 companies and investigate. Kamala Harris shut it down. Totally out of character for her. Why did she do it? Well, it turns out that lo and behold, her husband's law firm, Venable, represented all 6 of those companies. So literally those investigations of those companies went away. And I would argue it's because Kamala Harris's husband was the managing partner of the Venable office in Los Angeles at the time. Look at some of the other things that she did. There was a nonprofit hospital chain in California that was run by the Sisters of Mercy. They wanted to sell it to another nonprofit because they couldn't afford to run it anymore. The problem is that nonprofit that wanted to buy it did not want the Service Employees International Union to organize because they said they couldn't afford it. They couldn't run the hospitals with it. This is a nonprofit who worked with the California Nurses Association, had endorsements from the National Organization of Women, because they had said, if we buy this chain of hospitals, we will maintain consistent services. We will not eliminate any. The fact that they would not allow the SEIU to unionize led Kamala Harris, who had the authority, to block that sale. And what ended up happening is this hospital chain that was going to go to a nonprofit was bought by a hedge fund in New York. Kamala Harris did approve of that transaction because the hedge fund owners were Democrat donors. And of course, they allowed SEIU to unionize. The problem is that the hospital chain shut down and restricted a lot of services. So my point is that she goes after her opponents. She supports her powerful friends. That's certainly what she did as a law enforcement official, as a prosecutor. And I can expect as a president, she would continue to wield power in the same way.
And we've seen a lot of that. We've seen this with President Trump, with all the lawfare laid out against him. We've seen it against American citizens. And I do know that Kamala, at one point, there were some investigative journalists that had uncovered that Planned Parenthood was selling baby body parts. And I think she was instrumental in having them thrown in jail. So again, if we want a constitutional republic, I don't see how this fits. And the censorship from the censorship industrial complex seems to be wrapping up again. And everything that she's saying that she stands for now, we have proven material. It's not where she did stand. Now, I want to shift a little bit because we do have you for limited time. I want to talk a little bit about the national security threat of the Biden administration and their connections to the CCP. You know, I don't want this story to go away. I don't think that Joe should be able to walk from the money laundering that they have done with foreign nations. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is the Bidens have received tens of millions of dollars from foreign entities tied to corrupt foreign governments, some of whom are adversarial towards the United States. They've received, when Joe Biden was vice president, some $31 million from 4 Chinese businessmen. And the problem here is there's no discernible service or product that the Bidens offered in return. I mean, no legitimate product or service. This was a quote unquote international finance firm that Hunter Biden was running. And the Chinese businessmen in question were sending him millions of dollars, and he was giving them nothing in return in terms of for business purposes. The bottom line is that these businessmen are not sending money for no reason. They were expecting something in return. And it's what the Chinese call elite capture. They want to, it doesn't matter your political party, they want to get elites in power in the United States that are sympathetic or on the hook to them so they can get favorable treatment. And that is certainly what they have received with Joe Biden. And what you were talking about earlier with the censorship by the media is absolutely true. I mean, I first reported on this. I was the first one in 2018. The mainstream media ignored it. We just had a couple of weeks ago now, the Department of Justice of the Biden administration has filed documents in the tax case against Hunter Biden, where they say that Hunter Biden was engaged in influence peddling operations involving the United States government. They're only, 6 years late. And the mainstream media is still not really reporting on it. So this is the inherent problem. And this is, I think, going to be the playbook as it involves Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We've done a lot of research on Tim Walz as well and his troubling ties to China. It's a major problem that we do not have a functioning press in any consistent way that investigates people. My view has always been investigate Trump, expose stuff you want with Trump. Some of the stuff they've reported has been good. Some of it's been terrible, but report it, but do it on both sides. And they don't do that. They only do it on one side.
Yeah, we don't seem to have equal justice under the law anymore. I'm really concerned about this country. That X space that was on last night, I went ahead and joined in. I thought it was a fabulous conversation. Yet we had threatening letters coming from the EU. And I just can't help to think that the World Economic Forum, they just don't want America anymore. They want to have a one world government. They want to have a one world economy. And I think that we're in a really dangerous place in this country right now. What do you suggest that the people do to fight back against everything that's going on?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to arm yourself with information and facts. Be discerning, right? Just because you see something on Twitter X doesn't mean it's true. Fact check it. Try to find it. Right. I don't mean use the fact check organizations. I mean, actually look at the document and the material and see if you can verify it. And once you do that, share it with people. Be bold about it. Not obnoxious, but be bold and share it with people. Because look, the information's not going to trickle out any other way. People who are, politically not involved are not going to watch Fox News. They're not going to read the Wall Street Journal. So they're going to rely on friends or they're going to rely on social media. And the social media algorithms, with the exception of Twitter X, is biased in a certain way. So we are in a situation today which seems unimaginable. There is so much information out there. There's so much information that's accessible. There's almost too much. It becomes overwhelming for people to sift through it. So they rely on certain gatekeepers. And the problem is those gatekeepers are these major media outlets and these big social media companies, and they all have an agenda. The truth will win out. I ultimately believe that. But the problem is it may win out when it's too late.
Right. And the thing that happened to me in 2020, along with millions of other Americans, was I had posted the Hunter Biden laptop story that Miranda Devine had written. And that moment, and I'm not even kidding you, within the same hour, I was banned off Instagram. I was banned off Facebook. They took my business pages. And so then I walked away from my business and I ran for office, and now I'm doing this. It's crazy. I never in 100 years would think this would be something that I'm doing, but getting the truth out is so important. As my pastor says, a lie can't stand in the light of truth. One thing I'm also seeing, Peter, that's very concerning is when you go to Google or when you go to DuckDuckGo or any of these search engines, I can put in an article and nothing but left-wing articles come out. Right. The algorithms are just swaying so far to the left, we can't get true information anymore. What have you seen?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I did a documentary called The Creepy Line that came out in 2018. You can get it on Amazon Prime for free if you want to watch it. We interviewed Jordan Peterson and Robert Epstein, who's done a lot of research in this area. And it's precisely about this. It's about Google and these big tech companies and how they are literally swaying elections. They've done it in third world countries. They're doing it in the United States. Because the thing we have to realize is that people that are watching this podcast, are probably people that are pretty well informed. They're taking the time to listen to this. The vast majority of people, or at least a sizable chunk of people out there, really aren't. And you'd be surprised. Right. Google gets millions of search results a week before the election that says, who should I vote for president? Because people are trying to get a sense of what's going on. That gives Google enormous power. And as we showed in the documentary in that 2016 election, based on a Harvard researcher's analysis, the search results overwhelmingly favored Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump in 2016, and that trend continues. Now, Trump won in 2016, but the bar is getting higher and higher and higher for people to jump over if they don't have the backing or the blessing of these big tech companies. Excuse me.
Oh, I had one of those coughs too. It never went away for like months. It drove me absolutely crazy. So God bless you. Anyways, yeah. So you brought up Hillary Clinton, and I think that that's one thing that a lot of American people are really frustrated with, is we're not seeing equal justice under the law again. We know that she deleted her server, that she smashed her cell phones with, hammers, bleach pit, everything. We see what's going on with the Bidens, and yet we're seeing this lawfare come against conservatives. I'm actually going to be premiering a movie in about a week and a half. I'm trying to get a bunch of people that have made these films like yours and get them in front of audiences. So the January 6th defendants, I've got a friend that did nothing wrong, and he's actually fighting. The government's trying to get him to do a plea deal so they could get that guilty verdict out of him, and he's fighting it, and he's been fighting it for 4 years. We are just seeing American citizens thrown in jail. The guy that did the meme about Hillary thrown in jail. Nothing ever happens to these people. Tell everybody what you uncovered about Hillary real quick. I know we're getting limited on time here.
Yeah, Hillary and Bill ran a massive influence operation to collect hundreds of millions of dollars, which they did from foreign governments and entities. It was through speaking fees, and it was through the Clinton Foundation. And all you need to know about the Clinton Foundation is they took large sums of money from places like Russia, Ukraine, and China, and they collected that money when Hillary was Secretary of State. In other words, our chief diplomat, and when she was running for president in 2016. And guess what? When she lost the presidency in 2016, all that money dried up. The Clinton Foundation donations dropped more than 80%. And the donations from overseas, which were the bulk of them, dropped even more dramatically, which is clear evidence as to why they were giving that money. The Clintons, I think, were the first ones who globalized corruption. We're used to, unfortunately, corruption involving, local contractors in somebody's congressional district. They globalized it. They said, we're going to go overseas and we're going to get these foreign corrupt political actors to pay us money. And I think that's one of the things that inspired the Bidens in their business model. And it's a dangerous trend, because it's one thing when you're dealing with one American trying to corrupt another because they're trying to get a contract or a favor. It's another thing when you have foreign authorities, foreign oligarchs, paying our elected officials or their family members money because they want to change our national security policy, and they want to do something that is beneficial for them. And that's what the Clintons perfected. What I would say to everybody is you cannot get discouraged in light of what you just said. The worst thing that can happen is for everybody to just throw up their hands and say, forget it. I'm done. It's not fair. I'm not doing this anymore, because that's exactly what these corrupt people want you to do. When people like you and me or people in this audience get out of it and quit and fold up and go away, that gives them the victory. So keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting.
Yeah, and it's interesting about the Clinton Foundation. I think I talked to you a little bit about it earlier. And again, I want you to write a book on Arabella Advisors, because when they shut down the Clinton World Initiative, about a week later, Arabella Advisors popped up with Hans-Georg Weiss, who owns the Tribune now. And we've got foreign billionaire money that has more money than the RNC and DNC combined. And all of a sudden, this Act Blue scandals popping up where people might donate $100, but there's $10,000 in donations coming from individuals saying, I never gave $10,000. Arabella Advisors has the 4 funds, the Hopewell Fund, the 1630 Fund underneath them. And then they have pop-up groups, and they're all run out of the same office in Washington, D.C. And with these pop-up groups, that's how they're paying the protesters. You've got Defend Democracy. You want to know where all these tents come from? That's where. So I want to see you do a book on that one, because I'm telling you, I think you could slay it. But and Eric Kessler, who used to be the president of the Clinton World Initiative, is now the president of Arabella Advisors. It's all connected. One more thing I'd like to ask you about. We've got a congressional slush fund for people that get, charged, are accused of sexual misconduct. Do you believe half of our elected officials are we being run on blackmail?
I think that certainly is absolutely an element. I mean, there was a case just 5 or 6 months ago that was reported and that has now disappeared, that there was a brothel being run out of Northern Virginia. And the report from the Department of Justice was the people that were going to this brothel were high-ranking political and military officials in Washington, D.C. That story emerged. The Department of Justice mentioned it. It has completely disappeared. So I think this is a major problem on both sides of the aisle. And transparency is so key. I mean, look, I understand we don't need to know every single thing about everyone, but certainly when it comes to accusations or the truth behind sexual harassment or this kind of behavior, we absolutely need full transparency. What Washington, D.C. will tell you is the reason that the American people are losing confidence in their political leaders is because of all the anti-government rhetoric by people like Trump. It's not. It's because they see what their government officials are doing or not doing, and they are disgusted by it. It's the actions in Washington, D.C. that are leading people to lack trust in Washington, not the criticism of Washington. And until we are more transparent and start to clean house, it's just going to continue to be a problem.
Okay, so one more thing I need to talk to you about. I know now, too, the Biden administration has put us back into the global compact of migration. And they have been using our taxpayer dollars, using our refugee resettlement program to funnel these, to actually enable this invasion on our country. They've also lost track of 85,000 migrant children. Are they laundering money with our border?
Oh, I have no doubt they're laundering money with our border. I mean, you look at the entire mechanism for migrants coming to the United States, it's largely through criminal smuggling networks run by the Mexican drug cartels or run by other organized crime syndicates from China. So the notion that you're going to have this global compact involving the migration of people, moving people illegally, and it's not going to entail a criminal element is laughable. So, again, the issue here is transparency. And let's be honest, if you look at the statements of officials on the political left going back 20 years, they will say repeatedly that migration is the way to change the demographics of the country to favor them politically. They're open about it. They claim it. So, why pretend that this is not a political act being taken on by the political left in this country?
Right. And I think a lot of people don't realize as these migrants come in, they're counted in the census, which redistributes people in our congressional districts so they can skew that. And then I know some judge in Arizona just said that illegal aliens can vote. So we're in big trouble, Peter. And I appreciate so much the work that you do. I hope you keep it up. Do a book on Arabella Advisors. I want to see that because I think once you open that can of worms, it's pretty crazy. And not enough people talk about it. But let people know where they can find you and...
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, you can find our podcast at thedrilldown.com, or you can go to peterschweizer.com, which is my website. And of course, I'm on Twitter X at Peter Schweizer. And I really enjoyed the conversation, Lori. Thanks for including me.
I really appreciate you coming on. It means the world to me. Stay strong, stay in the battle. Let's win this.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, stay tuned. Our next guest is another J6 defendant. I'm not letting go of nonviolent offenders that are being prosecuted without due process. This man spent 11 months in jail before having any trial, before anything, and he never went in the Capitol. Anyways, we'll be right back.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. All the caps are made from premium cotton twill. Everything on them is embroidered. As a matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we donated over 45,000 caps to Trump-endorsed candidates and conservative causes all the way across America. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com, like on the sign over here, and use promo code CALI, and that's for Uncover California. That will get you a 10% discount off of all of our products and also help this worthy cause. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back to Uncover California. You know what? I am never, ever, ever going to back off of January 6th when I'm watching innocent Americans have their lives destroyed over a political prosecution. Our next guest is somebody that was at January 6th, another person who was nonviolent and had his life destroyed. Eric Christie, welcome to Uncover California.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay, so I started talking to you. I talked to you once before, but I want you to tell everybody your story. And we'll start in the beginning. You went to January 6th. Why did you go to see President Trump that day?
Well, I had concerns like everybody else about the election results.
Right. Well, and I still say Trump won. So there you have it.
So
And I have
do
the
I.
constitutional right to say so. Okay, so you went to January 6th. Did you go to the speech at the Ellipse?
I skipped that because I heard that there was lines and a big crowd, and I thought, you know what, let's just go to the Capitol and just wait. Now, here's the thing: what everybody saw on TV, all the mayhem that the media production and all that, that was on the West Side. Okay, that's where
Okay, and
all the
explain that, because wasn't there supposed to be a rally somewhere on the Capitol grounds that was permitted and somehow everybody else ended up in a different area? Explain it a little bit because people need to envision what you're talking about.
Well, it's going to be hard to envision, but I'll just say this. There were, from what I understand, 6 permitted events that day at the Capitol. So if you walk directly from the Ellipse to the Capitol, you will be on the West Side.
Okay.
So I guess it's a direct, but see, I had been in Washington, D.C. a few months earlier in November for the Freedom March from Freedom Plaza to the Supreme Court. So I was most familiar with the East Side. So since I was familiar with the East Side, that's where I went. That was, I guess you would say, the peaceful side, because
Okay.
everything that you saw in the media was happening on the West Side.
Okay, so basically the East Side, because the West Side is in front of the Capitol. So are you saying the East Side would be kind of behind the Capitol?
I'm saying that the East Side faces the Supreme Court. The West
Okay.
Side faces Ellipse.
Okay. So you get there and what happens? You're having a good time. What's going on?
It looked like a MAGA party to me. You know, there was music, there was people dancing. I didn't see anything of any importance. Like I was just there with the rest of the Trumpers and apparently others in disguise as Trumpers, right? And having our voice heard, right? That we have the
Right.
concerns about the election results.
Yeah, and you sent me a photo of you, which is a great photo, and I hope that Eric can put it into this clip at some point. That you're a gay man. You had a shirt on that said "Facts for Trump," and it looked like you had the hugest smile on your face, and you were just having a good time. Am I
Right.
wrong in saying that?
That would be accurate.
Okay, and so you're there. How long did you stay at the Capitol?
You know, I can't remember now how long I was there. I think I stayed long enough to where people just started to leave, right?
Okay.
So I can't really recall how long I was there.
Okay, and conversations you had. I mean, what were people doing there on the East Side? Did you ever go in the Capitol?
I wasn't in the Capitol, but um, that doesn't matter that I wasn't in the Capitol because
Well, and I understand that, but I want to hear your story, and then we can talk about why it,
okay. Yeah, I wasn't in
yeah,
the Capitol, and people asked me too. They said, "Why didn't you go in the Capitol?" I'm like, I just flat didn't feel like it. I just,
right.
I really, I didn't have any interest in going in the Capitol.
Okay, and so now we can go ahead and talk about why you feel that even if you were to have gone into the Capitol, that would have been okay.
Well, because as we find out later, because see what happened in the beginning was right away, uh, we, people are starting to notice their social media accounts blowing up, right? And it looked like there was going to be trouble after that was all over with. And sure enough, you start hearing these reports about the FBI busting in doors and arresting people. And I
But you're
was
out.
really,
Okay, but you're already
but,
out of the Capitol, so I want to stay at the Capitol right now,
oh,
and then we'll talk about after what happened to you.
what more do you want to know? I don't have much to say. I didn't
Okay,
see any,
so
I was
okay,
dancing and we were having a party and, you know,
okay, and then you said that you had seen somebody that you thought looked suspicious that
no.
maybe didn't fit in. Okay, no. So you go home and you start seeing social media posts of people being arrested and
No, I'm
everything
hearing
else.
firsthand. I'm hearing firsthand, right? Because I knew people who had gone, and I'm hearing firsthand that people are being arrested and they're busting in doors and coming after people. So I was, of course, really concerned about that. And I called other people that I knew and I said, we are going to have to find attorneys right away. We're going to have to, and they laughed at me. They said, oh, you have nothing to worry about. You didn't go in the Capitol. I said, no, you don't get it. This is going to go so far. They're going after everyone. Trust me. So, but as you started to look for attorneys, we found that there wasn't any attorneys willing to touch anything to do with J6. No attorneys were willing to touch anything with J6. And if you found an attorney willing to touch J6, they threw you under the bus.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so tell me about what happened to you when you were arrested. Where were you? What happened? I want you to get into detail about what happened to you that morning, and then we'll go on from there.
Right. Okay. So on December 22nd, 2022, it's about 9:30 in the morning, and I'm working at home uh, remotely on my job. And I'm about ready to go on a conference call in 15 minutes. And I'm upstairs and I hear the front door being busted open. And I thought, this is it. This is it. And so I got up from my desk in the back bedroom and I started walking through the home. And I have a skylight in the middle of the hall. They had gotten up on the roof, busted open the skylight, and threw a drone in the house. I get to my bedroom where there's a sliding glass door in my bedroom, and I look out the window of the door, the sliding glass door, and I see at the adjacent property across the alley, a tank with SWAT members pointing guns at me. It was like a military operation outside my home.
And
They had
did
shot
they
out,
identify themselves?
they had shot out the sliding glass door. There was glass everywhere. I've got a drone flying inside my house. The front door is busted open. The skylight is busted open. They threw flashbangs and tear gas into the house. I was under assault. Absolutely.
And did
And
they identify themselves?
there was at some point my phone rings and it's them, the FBI and all of them. And I said, you guys need a search warrant, you know that. And so I'm waiting for this search warrant or arrest warrant. They told me that I was not under arrest. By this time, my attorney's outside. They told my attorney that I was not under arrest, but they had this
Yet
search.
they blew up your window and blew up your skylight and put a drone in your house.
A flashbang and tear gas, and the front door is busted open.
For a nonviolent offense.
For two misdemeanors out of DC, the 1752 charge, which is the being on restricted grounds, entering and remaining in disorderly conduct on restricted grounds, that all warrants all of this.
And you didn't know that you were on restricted grounds.
Correct. Nobody knew that they were on restricted grounds. You know why they didn't know? Because the grounds were not restricted.
Right. Right.
I was going to get into that later on as we go through this story.
Okay,
yeah.
so let's go back to your house. So they've blown out your window, they've shattered your skylight, they've come into your home. Your attorney shows up. They say you're not under arrest. Then what?
They're not physically in my home at this point. Okay. So I tell them that they should have a search warrant if that's what it is that they're here for. So they sent the search warrant in by robot, and I took a look at the search warrant, and I don't know if you know about what a legal search warrant is supposed to look like, but it's supposed to have a wet signature by a judge, and it should be attached to an affidavit with wet signatures. That's what I've
Okay.
always been taught. Okay. So I'm looking at this thing and it doesn't even look legal to me. And I bring up these points to them. I go, this doesn't look to me like a legal search warrant. I said, where's the affidavit? They tell me it's sealed. Does that make any sense? Sealing an affidavit? Does that make any sense?
No.
Right.
And so what is your attorney saying?
The attorney's just, I believe the attorney is saying something like, oh, well, they just want to do, search the place. And I'm thinking, for what, right? For what? But
They need your
anyways,
MAGA hats.
and my shirt. The shirt that you
Wow.
mentioned. They need the shirt that says "Fags for Trump." They still have it, by the way. And
Wow.
then, yeah. And so anyways, long story short, they became more and more threatening, that if
In
I
what
if
way?
I did if I didn't come out, that they were coming in. So I didn't want to know what that's going to look like, because it already looked pretty bad for what they've done so far. And so by this time, my attorney was out there and several friends, because I wanted to make sure people saw this, what was happening, right? What was happening. I didn't want to just be abducted and just nobody knew whatever happened to me, right? So so I came out, and that's when they put the handcuffs on me, and that's when they took me to the federal prison in downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, and how long did you spend at the downtown Los Angeles facility?
A month.
A month?
Mm-hmm.
A month?
Right.
For a nonviolent offense. What was their reasoning for you having to be there a month? And we're talking about George Gascon, who lets murderers out of prison.
Right. Right. So I was so we had asked the judge for bail, denied. Mind you, I qualified per the Constitution and also the, oh crap, I'm forgetting the word, Bail Reform Act. I qualified per the Bail Reform Act. Denied. I was there for a month, and then they shackled me up and handcuffed me, put me on a plane with a bunch of other prisoners, and took me to DC. The infamous gulag, as it's dubbed, right? The gulag, you've heard that word before.
Right.
I end up at the gulag. And we asked the judge to reconsider on the bail, the bond. Denied. We go through the appellate court. Denied.
It's just not funny, though. It's not funny. So you get to the DC gulag. Did you meet other J6ers there? What kind of conditions were they? And how were they treating you guys?
The conditions. The conditions were probably about the same as any other jail.
Okay.
Because I was in Los Angeles, so I experienced that jail. I stopped in Oklahoma for a weekend and saw those conditions, and then I'm in DC and I'm observing those conditions, right? It's jail. It's horrible.
Right. And again, all for a non-violent 2 misdemeanors offense. And how long did you have to stay in the DC gulag?
So I was incarcerated a total of 11 months and 10 days.
This crap needs to stop. This is not America. It beyond infuriates me that our country is treating American citizens like this. And Congress, what are you doing? Senate, what are you doing? I agree with Donald Trump. J6ers, every case needs to be reviewed. Any misconduct by the prosecutors and the DOJ, they should have to do the time that you guys have had to do. It's infuriating to me. So you're in there for 11 months for a nonviolent crime, never going in the Capitol, 2 misdemeanors. And those charges were again?
What the charges were called?
Yes.
So it was the 1752. So entering and remaining on restricted grounds, and
which was the grass,
which was the property of the Capitol, right?
Okay.
And disorderly conduct on restricted grounds.
And what was that disorderly conduct that you performed?
Whatever they want to call it.
What you recall? What were you doing?
I don't recall disorderly.
Okay. You didn't get any fights with anybody. You were having a good time, non-violence.
Right.
Okay. And so 11 months of your life go by. How much money has this cost you?
Well, I had ongoing expenses at home, right?
Right.
So I'm constantly bleeding resources, I still haven't found employment, and it really doesn't even have anything to do with the felonies yet, because I haven't even gotten that far. You see what I'm saying?
So you said felonies. What felonies?
Well, that's what they did. They took the misdemeanors and they enhanced them and gave me felonies.
Did they try to do a plea deal with you?
Not really.
So they're just throwing the book at you.
Right.
Shame on you, judges. Shame on you, judges. How dare you treat the American people like this while you're letting criminals out of jail for political gain? It's disgusting. Okay, so you're in the gulag for 11 months. How do you get out?
So what happens is in August, I go to trial, and I happen to have an excellent attorney. I was extremely lucky. Every J6er wants my attorney. And she said, we're going for full acquittal. I said,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how that's possible because if I get acquitted from those 1752 charges being on restricted ground, what's that going to do for everybody else? Right?
Right.
Right? I said, I don't see how that's possible. So, uh, anyways, we went to trial, and this is the incredible part. So, I had a Secret Service expert witness that my attorney had lined up for me. And our Secret Service expert witness had been approved by the government and the judge pre-trial. So they knew we had this witness. And then at trial, after our witness took the stand, the judge refused to let him testify. In other words, witness leave the courtroom.
Exculpatory evidence, violating the Brady rule. They did that with Trump. They've done it with a lot of other J6ers. This is not lawful. Those in legalese are breaking the law in order to get political outcomes. It's disgusting.
So what that means is when the judge made my witness, the Secret Service witness, leave the courtroom because the Secret Service is involved in restricting the grounds at the Capitol if they are
Right.
restricted, right?
Right.
So I was denied due process. I was denied the ability to put on a defense, okay? And then the prosecution never provided any pre-trial discovery or evidence at trial the building or grounds were restricted under 1752. So there you go. What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
You didn't have a chance. And
I didn't
I'm
have a
seeing
chance,
that.
and they didn't provide us with any discovery showing us that the grounds were restricted.
Right.
What do you think that
again,
means?
I think you were all set up. The bottom line, from everything that I've seen, and even the footage that we're going to be showing at the movie premiere, The War on Truth, I think that if people see this film, they're going to know that they've been fed another narrative in order to achieve a political gain. The only people that benefited from J6 were the Democrats. They were able to stop the debate on the floor. None of us wanted violence. None of us wanted anything bad to happen. But I think that there's certain people that do, and they still don't talk about the pipe bomb at Kamala's office, at the DNC. Yet she, becoming the vice president, almost was assassinated, and it's a non-story. And people like you had the Brady rule, exculpatory evidence withheld. They didn't even provide a prosecution, and you do 11 months in jail without due process. That is not a constitutional republic. That is a communist democracy. So, Eric, tell people where they can find you. Tell people how they can help you. Is there anywhere that they can donate to you?
Yes, I have my website. It's ericchristie.com, ERIC for Eric, and then Christie, CHRISTIE.com. And also, anybody in the Southern California area, or California for that matter, who knows anyone in banking, because that's where I was for over 20 years. I had a very successful career as an asset manager in commercial mortgage, and gone.
They ruined your life.
Yeah,
they ruined your life.
Yeah.
This is so not okay. It infuriates me. And for everybody else, just so you know, Eric will be joining our panel at the War on Truth movie on August 22nd. Make sure you get your tickets. We are almost sold out, but we are going to tell the truth, and we are going to have the J6ers backs that have been unlawfully prosecuted. And for those of you that are going to say, well, I saw it on TV, interesting that CNN and NBC knew exactly where to put their cameras. See this film, and you're going to see that you have been lied to. Eric, are you on social media? Is there anywhere people can follow you on social media?
Let's see. On my on that website that I gave you, there's a link to my email address, and if
Okay.
anybody has any job opportunities they think I might be interested in, they could reach me that way.
Yeah, so you guys, if you are an employer, if you are in the banking industry and you see the injustice, it's time for you to speak up. It's time for you to stop cowering. We are losing this country and you guys have remained silent. And to remain silent in the face of evil is in itself evil. So if anybody can get a job for Eric, whose life has been destroyed because he went and stood on the outside of the Capitol nonviolently and had his life destroyed, we'd highly appreciate it. Eric, thanks so much for coming in, and I'll see you in about a week and a half.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
All right, my friend. Okay, everybody. Tune in next week to Uncover California, where we are going to have the Minister of Retribution, Ivan Raiklin, talking about the deep state. And we'll have a couple other surprise guests. Stay tuned next week. We love you here at Uncover California, where we are not afraid to tell the truth. Hey guys, if you missed the movie Letter to the American Church on August 1st, it's not too late. On August 22nd, we're going to premiere at the Roxy Theater in Camarillo at 7 o'clock, The War on Truth. There will be a question answer session with the producers, and also could be a few J6ers in the room to share their stories with you. It's a film opportunity you're not going to get anywhere else. It's the only time you're going to be able to see it on the big screen. Go to uncovercali.com for tickets.